Well, a very good evening to you, Namibia, wherever you might be finding yourself. Namibia's strengthening of trade, investment, tourism, and cultural activities, as well as people-to-people interactions with Malaysia, is solid. In today's edition of Diplomatic COMMUNIQUE, we speak to the Namibian ambassador to Malaysia, Herman, around our bilateral relations, as well as what some of the economic opportunities are available for Namibians in Malaysia. A very good evening to you, and thank you very much for making time out to join me, Ambassador.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here.
If we can start off first and foremost, if you can perhaps inform us of what are the objectives of the mission in Malaysia?
Well, the objective of a bilateral mission is to advance bilateral ties between the sending state and then the host government. As such, as I've been saying about bilateral ties between the sending state and the host government, Mission Kuala Lumpur is pursuing the objectives and national interests of the government of Namibia in terms of the strategic plan of the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation. Now, I should add also that bilateral missions, all along 90% of the bilateral missions in the world are covered from, in fact, from bilateral missions, I should say, 90% of them. And this includes, say for instance, number one, engaging the host government, and that is trying to see how you can advance high-level contacts, and then also to engage what I call my constituency, which is the captains of industry, that's now in pursuit of our policy of economic diplomacy.
What are some of the current areas of cooperation that we have as Namibia with Malaysia?
To answer that question, I have quite a lot on the table, but to make it short, I'll just give you, say, a snapshot. Number one, let me start with, with the current shape of the globe. We would want to tap into technical cooperation, especially number one. If you look like Namibia is now an aspiring oil and gas producing country. Then we also have what we call the green hydrogen. Now, a country like Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, these are countries that have been in the sectors of oil and gas exploration as well as green hydrogen. Now, my objective right down there is to see how we can leverage the friendship that exists between Namibia and the countries that I've just mentioned in terms of having to train our Namibian guys in those industries that I've just mentioned, to prepare ourselves once these things come on stream. We have our own people in-house who can run the show.
But in terms of that, what are some of the activities that you are undertaking as a mission to promote, some of these different areas of cooperation that you're mentioning, particularly the green hydrogen and a number of other upcoming industries for the country?
Well, on the green hydrogen, we have not been so much engaging our counterparts on the other side, but we have sensitized them on that. But if I should speak on in terms of training our future petrochemical engineers, etc., we have been engaging them in terms of extending scholarships to our Namibian nationals to be trained by them in those respective fields so that we can run these sectors on our own once those ones who came in to train us here are gone.
So do we have quite a large number of students in Malaysia right now?
At this stage, not yet. we have been speaking to them of what is going to come on stream. So we are preparing, we want to prepare them in advance to see once the gas and oil and gas are coming on stream, we are ready.
Well, for now, Ambassador, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue to discuss, of course, the details of bilateral relations between the two countries. If you just joined us, you're watching Diplomatic Communique. We are speaking to Herman P. Diamonds, our ambassador to Malaysia. We'll be back with more after this short visit to the marketplace. Welcome back to Diplomatic Communique. You're watching, of course, the edition that's focusing on our business with Malaysia. I'm joined by our ambassador to Malaysia, Herman Diamonds, to just reflect a little bit more on that. Ambassador, during the ninth session of the Heads of State mission, of course, there was a major focus. The theme itself was economic diplomacy. And I know that there had been some activities in the area of trade and investment that had taken place with Malaysia in terms of our bilateral cooperation. Can you expound on some of those activities and the efforts that you've been putting in over the last couple of months?
The pleasure is mine. Of course, trade and investment are one of our primary focus areas as well in terms of pursuing economic diplomacy. Of late, we have been in the process of organizing the second edition of the Africa-Malaysia Business Forum, which was supposed to take place now in November. But unfortunately, it has to be postponed because of some logistical issues. And we are still going to host it next year, 2024, in May. I think we want to slate it to fall on the same time as the Africa Day celebrations. Now, apart from that one, what we have been doing as a mission to Kuala Lumpur, we have been receiving some people from the ministry, from the Namibia Investment Promotions and Development Board. Seeing that I have been emphasizing quite a lot of empowering our SMEs, I took them to a company which with the name Easy Packaging. Now, Easy Packaging is involved in the manufacturing, training of SME entrepreneurs. Now, this company has got tailor-made projects for the small and medium enterprises. And then the other one is that we have solicited some credible investors, like for instance, if I may mention, the Malaysia Solar Resources. Now, these guys are specializing in the manufacturing of solar panels. We call it photovoltaics. Now, my message to them was clear. We don't want you to import. We want you to come and set up. And they told me that is precisely what they would want to do when they enter Namibia first. But now, I have been grappling with the questions because these are questions that came from them as to land availability, etc., etc. And I told them, look here, what we have been developing for the past couple of years and a half is that we have got special economic zones. And those special economic zones, there are a lot of favorable conditions attached for investors who wants to come and manufacture value addition in terms or in pursuit of our growth at home policy.
But are they keen? If one looks at his ambassador, usually with a lot of companies that are coming in from outside, many of them, the issue around partnership with local companies, empowering local companies, and of course, part of the growth at home strategy of skills transfer is always a bit of a challenge. Are the Malaysian companies that are offering to come and do business here open for those kind of collaborations?
Definitely, definitely. You know, our objective is to bring them in here to either pair up with the existing companies, like in joint ventures. That's one thing. The other one is to engage them in manufacturing and, of course, to transfer skills. You know, if you look at it from the Asian side, it's not like when you look at the European side, where it's quite a challenge when it comes to the transfer of technology. The Malaysian side, or let me say Southeast Asian, because I'm representing almost something like 7 countries in the region. These gentlemen, these captains of industry, are willing to transfer technology and from their onwards also to train them to service whatever installations they are going to do, including grid connections. So that's where we are. It's quite exciting.
In terms of that, of course, I think foreign direct investment is always something that we're looking forward to. But sometimes the opportunities lie in us, going to those missions and trying to get business on that end. What are some of the low-hanging fruits for Namibian businesses in Malaysia at the moment, or the kind of partnerships that they can look into?
Thank you for the question. There are challenges, but I believe where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. Now, in terms of the low-hanging fruits, this is we have got to look at it from a perspective that these are countries from the global south that are willing to cooperate. Now, when we talk about cooperation with, especially, the Asian Tigers, those are the groups that I'm dealing with that side. So they are very willing to come in and see what is there to be done. And in that context, we emphasize, we underline the aspect of South-South cooperation. Should we remember, President Limkokwing went to Indonesia and we signed an agreement of cooperation. Indonesia, for instance, offered to build 2,000 low-cost houses in Katima Mulilo. Now, what is delaying this project to take off is the identification of available land in Katima Mulilo. Now, I have been speaking to the governor when I visited him before I left for Malaysia, telling him, my dear, it looks like my colleagues are a little bit slow this side, but if you are willing, I can speak to the ambassador of Indonesia and perhaps maybe we can take the project. So the one who runs fast, you deal with him.
We'll deal with the project, but in terms of the selection, for example, like you said, of Katima Mulilo, was that a prerequisite from the side of those that were offering, or if they are not moving, can other regions move in on it?
Well, of course, this is an agreement that we have signed with the Indonesians, and I think when that recommendation was made that it should be destined for Katima Mulilo, it should have been coming from the local government. But now the issue is this: you don't let a low-hanging fruit hang around for too long.
Otherwise it rots.
Because you come back, it's gone. It's low-hanging, as you are saying.
Yeah.
But now if you leave it for too long, somebody will come and pluck it. So what we do is we need development. Our people need houses.
But for something like this, Ambassador, when you say 2,000 houses on offer, all sorts of light bulbs go off. And I'm pretty sure our viewers at home are also thinking, especially those in Katima, they say, are you meaning to tell me that I could potentially benefit from something like this? The question I'm trying to get to is there a deadline in terms of an implementation of such an agreement, for example?
The agreement is still running. The agreement is still in operation. There's no way one can say that it will expire. The only thing is that we have to move a little bit faster. Now, I've been telling you about the challenges that we have in terms of land identification. So we cannot let this go. And in fact, these low-cost housing projects would have been financed by the Export-Import Bank of Indonesia in a joint venture partnership with the Development Bank of Namibia. That's the understanding. So I'm not so sure whether there's an expiry on that one. Even if something is worked into the MOU that was signed by the president, we can still go back to our partners. I've been telling you, the partners are willing. They want to work more with their brothers in the Global South.
Ambassador, it's time for us to quickly take a short break, and when we come back, of course, we will conclude our conversation for tonight. Diplomatic Communique, focusing on Malaysia for tonight's edition. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Diplomatic Communique. That's what you're watching. And for tonight, we're focusing on Malaysia. And this time around, we're joined by the ambassador from Namibia to Malaysia, Herman Diamonds. We were looking at, of course, primarily discussing Malaysia in the first two segments of the program, but you are accredited, of course, to the whole Southeast Asia. Before we look at the individual countries, it has always been fascinating, really, to look at how they have used their economic policy over the last 30, 40 years to develop parts of Southeast Asia. The likes of Lee Kuan Yew and others have been really pioneers in terms of fast economic development. What are some of the best practices that we can take from the Asian tigers in as far as economic growth and maintaining a focused trajectory is concerned?
Well, of course, we know about the Asian tigers very much well. The Asian tigers, one can characterize them as a group that is on the way to become highly developed very soon. Of course, COVID-19 had its own drawbacks, but now that we have been opening up that side, of course, we are giving traction. Now, we have got, for instance, we have never, let me give you an example. Malaysia built its first car in, I think, 1993. So when I was speaking to one of the captains of industry, he said, but your Perod looks very nice. The pricing is also very good. It can be very much competitive when it's in Namibia. What about perhaps maybe taking an assembly plant to Namibia? And I use my arm twist there. I said, look here, we have got a lot of cattle down there, so we have got a lot of hide and skin. So we can, for instance, provide hide and skin for the seeds. The gentleman was so kind. He said, look here, when we started this business, we started from building cars with second-hand parts supplied from Japan. So he said, the best thing that you can do is don't think of an assembly plant right now. Start with the small parts. And he gave me an example saying, one car, for instance, gets parts from 12,000 different suppliers. Now imagine yourself, a country like Namibia never had an experience with an assembly plant, and now you just want to start. So I took it as it is. But otherwise, they are moving fast. As we are now also running with the green energy generation, etc., etc., they are also in that direction.
In the renewable energy space.
Yeah. So I think they have picked up on the news.
So are we going to get some action from that side as well? I mean, the Europeans are moving in on it. The EU just signed a €1 billion deal with the Namibian government just recently as well. We're seeing that, of course, interest also coming in from the North Americas as well. Are we going to see any interest from the side of the Southeast Asian countries in the renewable energy hub dreams of Namibia?
Definitely. Let me just tell you now, 3 weeks ago, I said, let me say 4 weeks, I had a one-on-one with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. Thereafter, I had a one-on-one with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brunei. And lately, say 1 week and a half, I spoke to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines. And I laid out what we can do. So there are a lot of things on the table. Number one, Brunei was very specific. I don't know whether they Googled or they did desktop research, but they told me, look here, we want to talk to your people from Petrofund. I say, yes, now you talk my same language. Then, in the Philippines, of course, I left them with a template on agricultural cooperation. You know, these people are importing their meat and meat products from Australia. Now, meat in that part of the world is like a black diamond, price-wise. And I think we do have a competitive advantage. Now,
this is not for the Philippines.
That's for the Philippines. For Malaysia, we have got a slight challenge, but that challenge can be overcome. That challenge is, this is a country which uses halal products. But the halal product issue is not something that can push us back.
No, but if we look at it, even with Midco, I think that they use the halal process in the production of their meat.
Yeah, but this must be certified by them. Because in every country, what it does, it's
they've got
always
their own certification.
Precisely. Or otherwise, there must be a certification body which is accredited by them.
Comrade Ambassador, before we close off, I just want us to touch a little bit on Indonesia. I think an important bilateral partner and territory as well in the Southeast Asia. What are one or two highlights that you can share with us in terms of our cooperation with Indonesia before we call it a night?
Indonesia it's the big brother. It's the #1 economy in Southeast Asia. And there's quite a lot of stuff. I'm sure my minister might have met the foreign minister on the margins of the BRICS summit that took place a couple of weeks ago. And when I spoke to her, the issue was that they are very much interested in cooperating with Namibia in renewable energy. Perhaps maybe because I also informed the Minister of Foreign Affairs that my current Minister of International Relations and Cooperation was formerly a Minister of Environment and Tourism, and how much passion he has for the environment. She said, then I should meet her. Now, there's a standing, waiting. I'm still waiting to get a green light because, as you know, COP28 is going to take place very soon. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines said, I must pass the message to my minister if she's going to attend the COP28 that he would want to meet with her on the sidelines of COP28.
Well, Ambassador, thank you so much for making time out to come and join us. I think we could spend hours and hours and speaking about some of the potential opportunities that are available, but we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Ambassador Herman P. Diamonds representing Malaysia, of course, speaking to us about some of the opportunities that are available in Southeast Asia and the growing interest also in our renewable energy industry. That's it, of course, for tonight's edition of Diplomatic Communique. I'm Ricardo Clausen. Until next time, bye-bye.